So I started in a HackMD as requested by Radu instead of a Google Doc. I started writing down the what I have in my head for the spec. I tried to model it off of what we have for like the bundle.json and other parts of the spec that already exist. I copy pasted your big section over here explaining what the what we use, what terminology we use. Oh, there's a chat. Oh, there we go. Sorry, and I'm busy burning your agenda as well in parallel. Oh no, I'm on it. Okay, great. I thought I'd start by writing out the approach, so explaining what the like what we tried to do here, which at a high level is we're trying to reuse what already exists to store CNABs. We don't want to make a new registry or anything like that. We really want to try and reuse what already exists. Obviously, we want this to work with signing. We want to keep the bundle.json the same. I think this is what Radu and us discussed at one of the KubeCons. And we have a reference implementation already. And then, yeah, this is filler stuff we can fill in later. This was something I copied from the cnab-spec itself. Obviously, this requires a bit of an understanding about how OCI image formats and registries work, registry protocols work. So, but I don't think we want to, it's like finding the balance between explaining what the things are and diving into the detail. I think we want to try and avoid that as much as possible. I then started writing what the OCI representation is. So basically what a CNAB is and how that relates to OCI objects. I went into what the bundle.json would look like. What I want to do is have a very small example of a bundle JSON with maybe an invocation image and one other image to show how the thing is constructed going down the way. I didn't find I think the duffel example is out of date, so we probably need to update that. I took that and then started modifying it a bit, but that's what I proposed.
Maybe you can use V1 in cnab-to-oci.
Yeah, that's another option that I didn't. I wanted to use the duffel one to start, just because that was the first one I found. But yeah, we can use anyone. I'm not religious about that. I just don't want to have a 1,500 line JSON file as part of this. So if we can, the shorter the better is what we should probably aim for. There's a bunch of things we need to handle. So this is one I've kind of already handled higher up. For registries that don't support the CNAB media type, we can talk about, we may store them with a standard container image config type. We should discuss if we should support the Docker one as well, which is the OCI one, but we can have those discussions on the actual PR as well. Annotations, we need to check as well. We need to make a decision about what we want to do there. There was the artifact type one that might be, but it's probably one we should consider adding, and some other things. Yeah, and then I was going to break it down by sections, and then at the end have a top level representation. So basically explain at the top, saying this is how it's modeled at a high level, and then these are the components and how you define them, and then finally show the finalized object at the end. And then I thought about the air gap stuff. I know this is kind of a separate issue, but it's kind of related. Just explaining how you'd save the stuff to disk. So that's kind of what I wrote down so far. What does everybody think of that so far?
This is great in order to get started. And I think we should continue adding in this document and also have a look at it later today and maybe fill in the approach when it makes sense with. My only question is whether we should also focus on proposing the config object with a new media type to OCI. I know Steve Lasker is again open to that discussion, and I think we need to follow up in order not to rely on annotations for this anymore. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I think it depends on how long we think it's going to take. If we think we can get it done relatively quickly, then we should target that. But otherwise, what we can do is just capture the actual state and then propose, say that we will be doing this in the future or something like that. And because I think this is not going to be merged next week, so we can kind of work it along.
I totally agree. I totally agree that it's not going to get merged. And even if it does get merged into OCI as soon as possible, it's going to take a while until registry implementations actually support media types for index. So yeah, I think we should at least mention both approaches in the spec.
Yeah, that's also kind of why I wanted to put the approach thing, is to it's what we're trying to do is find the balance between having a perfect representation and reusing what already exists, because we don't want to write a different registry infrastructure. Like that's why we have the fallbacks and things like that, just because we want to focus on making it easy for people to use CNABs, maybe at the cost of having a perfect or what we would consider to be a perfect representation. And that's a good example where, yeah, I think the media types will come, and we'll definitely adopt them when they come, but will they come in time? We don't know. So that's, we can have a fallback or something. So that maybe, for example, that might be a should use the media type. If it gets into the ACI, we can add it as a should, and then, or it may fall back to not using a media type on registries that don't support it.
I totally agree. Yeah, thanks a lot for putting this together. I think you should share it in the CNAB channel and give people a chance to give their feedback before we put some more stuff in here. But this is a great start. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't want to hide this. I think I shared it in the thread. I didn't know who was interested. I will definitely share that. So in terms of how we move forward, I do not have a lot of time in general to dedicate where I can sit down and write things down. So I'm looking for help if possible. I know that I think between Radu, Sylvain, and me, we have a lot of reasonable knowledge of how this all fits together and how it works. Trishank, you know that Radu and Sylvain are both people you can spend tons of time with and speak to. So I'm confident that we can bring people up to speed who don't know how it works yet. How do you think we should cut this up? Should we just let people edit sections that they feel comfortable with, or should we just see how it goes over the next week and then decide after that, or what makes sense?
I would be okay with us editing sections and then revisiting, maybe even not wait 2 weeks until the next registry meeting, but just maybe take a couple of minutes if it makes sense in Slack and just go through it to see if anything changed that we are not comfortable or we did not discuss that is controversial. And then I think we can go ahead, maybe in a week's time, open a draft pull request and the spec repo over this.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Radu said, and thanks for the great work, Chris. I mean, this is certainly fantastic. I think I know people in my company who'd be very, very interested in taking a cut of this document, Jacob and Griffin, so I'll be sure to ping them too.
Oh, I'm not at all religious about this though, so if you see things that we should change or whatever, now's the time to do it. So yeah, I've been kicking the can down the road on this one to get it started, so I'm just happy that I found some time to do that.
I just remembered the KubeCon Barcelona meeting a couple of days ago. I was like, oh, that was a long time ago. So yeah. We also have the advantage of having a reference implementation for all this. So we can get inspired from precisely what we do in the reference implementation.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good point. Having the reference implementation that we can use as experience already to know where the rough edges are is super useful for writing the spec. Because if we were just to write it on a blank sheet of paper, we would write it way differently to what we've actually landed on.
Thanks a lot, Chris. I know you said you had another meeting, and I don't want to keep you if you need to run to the other one.
I've got 4 minutes. So it's okay. I think the feedback we need right now quickly from other people is the format something that makes sense? If it isn't, then we can, because that's the real blocker here. Is the format right? If it is right, then we can execute in parallel or whatever, and it'll go quickly.
I think so. For the most part, I think so. I'll also have to have a look at the other section just to make sure it's consistent at the other parts of the spec. But at a first glance, yes, I think this is definitely something we can go ahead with and add things.
Yeah, I'm just looking for ways we can reduce the scope as well. If we don't have it ready, we can punt it, or we can tackle that in a second go. Okay, cool. In that case, I will drop. Ping me on Slack if you need anything. Otherwise, I will try to asynchronously add stuff to this document. It's definitely easier to make edits in this or a Google Doc than on a PR. That's why I think having something like this is great for us to.
Yeah. Until it's in a state where we can have a draft PR, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. All right. thanks all of you for contributing the time. Sivan, yeah?
Yeah, can we comment?
Can you comment?
Yeah, just asking.
I think you can do something like this, and then you can. Oh, I don't know. Maybe you can.
There are two comment functionalities in HackMD. Find either of them, and you can comment.
Okay. Okay.
Otherwise, I mean, what I'm doing is I'm using slashes because I thought that they would be comments, but they are not. And I'm using X's that I can easily search for to put down thoughts that I can then expand into paragraphs, or anybody can actually. That's kind of the point. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, thanks all of you for being interested in this, and I'll catch up with you at the next CNAB meeting.
Thank you.
So what's next in the agenda?
Next in the agenda is something that has been brought up a couple of times by Glenn, which is issue 314.
Yep.
In the cnab-spec, and I think I can share my screen. Let me know if you can see my browser window.
Yeah, it's in dark mode.
Okay.
Oh, how did you do that? What the?
Yes, it's an extension.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I'll share it.
Yeah, no, I saw, but I didn't want to install the extension.
So the main issue raised by Glenn is that we don't have guidance right now for when multiple vendors want to distribute bundles, and how should clients establish trust between multiple vendors. And if I'm being completely honest, I think this is an issue that technically could fall beyond the scope of the security spec itself. This is an issue that should probably be solved at the registry level. And even then, I am uncertain that registry people are willing to solve this particular issue, because it involves a lot of key management, which I'm not. Tushank and I actually brought this up at the Notary V2 meeting a couple of days ago, and it was not something that's universally agreed on that Notary should solve.
Yeah. If I could add to that, yeah,
sure.
I mean, I'm not even sure this is a problem at the registry level. I agree with you. What's best is to add something to the security spec. And honestly, I'm not sure what we can say about this. It's a bit like asking, well, why should I trust PyAPI.org? Where should I get the SSL certificate for that? How should I trust NPM? What's the domain name? I mean, you get the idea. Why should I trust NPM? Yeah. Where do I get a cert for that? How do I trust Docker Hub? Where do I get a cert for that? I mean, yeah, these are all disparate, and we use TLS to handle that transparently, which is great. So nobody asked this question. But we do need to add something about it in the security spec. And there are a few answers. One of them is to say, well, you're responsible for somehow getting a good, vetted, trusted copy of the root certificate, right? Which is usually self-signed, unlike TLS. I don't think there's going to be an X509 kind of system for CNAB bundle repositories. I could be wrong. Maybe we can use TLS, reuse TLS for this. But yeah, that's something that we do need to clarify. Another thing that Glenn brought up is that, why should I trust a vendor? How do I get developer keys? Yeah, I mean, good questions. And that's something that we should, I mean, it's a hard problem to solve, right? I mean, if you don't trust a vendor, why should you?
One potential issue that is not necessarily solving this at the spec level, but solving is at potential tooling level, was distributing a list of root keys that your tooling should trust, right? You have an administrator who vetted that these vendors are to be trusted, or their keys are to be trusted, and your tooling only accepts bundles or artifacts signed by those keys. And again, this is not solving the issue at all at the spec level. But then again, I don't think there is a way to reliably solve this at a spec level without significantly restricting people who might have other means of solving this issue. I don't know. I on one level, I understand that this is something that any non-trivial organization who uses this type of artifact and signature will have to deal with. On the other hand, I'm not sure if we I'm not certain we should fix it at the spec level without becoming too restrictive into how tooling should behave.
I agree with you. I think we can write general comments on the spec, and then the tooling can be opinionated as it likes. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I've been going back and forth on this quite a bit, and the security spec should only dictate the way tough and in total metadata should be distributed and signed inside trusted collections and trust servers, and not how you do key management on disk. Right.
100%. Yeah. Especially getting the root metadata, which is not a spec level thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you could definitely think about it some more, but the more I think about it, the more I tend to agree that this maybe should not be solved at the spec level. And you can definitely add some more notes and appendixes and stuff, but I'm not sure we should be prescriptive.
Got it.
Do we want to add anything more to this discussion?
You mean this particular issue? No.
Yeah.
I'm just going to add a note there saying what we basically agreed on here.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can move over to the next item, which is the CNAB and Notary v2 discussion that took place on Monday, I think. As an aside, that discussion, the Notary v2 discussion on Monday took, 4 hours?
Yeah.
Something around 4 hours.
3 hours and 18 minutes, I counted.
Yeah. And even if the CNAB topic was third on the agenda, somehow we managed to be the last discussion. We ended the meeting. So
next time we will win the race condition.
Yeah. So the goal of that discussion was, first of all, to say hi to the Notary v2 people. We've been more or less lurking around their meetings and issues, but not actually started a discussion around CNAB. So this was a way to say hi and to say that we're actually using Notary v1 right now, and explain how we distribute CNAB artifacts in OCI registries and how we're using Notary right now. And to present the scenarios and resulting limitations that we've encountered with v1 that hopefully will be solved with Notary v2. And a really good discussion came out of it. The action item for us, for Tushank and I at least, is to document the current limitation with Notary v1 in defining key delegations, and document that in an issue in the Notary project repo, and start a discussion about how to hopefully solve that in v2. I think the 3.5-hour meeting has been uploaded if anyone has the patience to watch through that. But I think, I should also link the notes to the overall discussion, and I'll do that.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to add anything about that whole meeting, Chunk?
No, we need to like you said, file that issue, and I need to get started on that HackMD document we were editing together.
Yeah.
I will try to get something out today or tomorrow.
Okay. The next is an issue filed, I think, by someone working on Harbor. I might be wrong though, but on cnab-to-oci, mentioning that the current media type used right now in cnab-to-oci does not meet the OCI artifact spec, which is correct. So the OCI artifacts, at least the current version of the media type, Steve Lasker mentioned that it might change in the near future. I'm not sure. We should probably keep an eye on that discussion as well. But the current way a media type should be constructed is application, VND, organization or company, object type, an optional subtype, config, and version, and then whatever file type we have, right? So right now, in case of CNAB, we're kind of missing the organization or company. If we take the bundle as a subtype, if we take the config, then CNAB either becomes an optional subtype or the object type, meaning that we don't have an org or company. So I think the so far agreed upon suggestion by Matt Butcher is to have VND CNAB bundle config. right? In which we have the CNAB Foundation, which is the official organization. And then the bundle is the object type, and then config, version, and then file type. And I think this has, yeah, go ahead, Sylvain.
Yeah, is it cnab or cnab.io?
Yeah, I think that is something we can discuss. I don't know. And I honestly, I don't have a strong opinion in it. To be fair, the foundation is CNAB. cnab.io happens to be the domain and GitHub org, but I think it's the CNAB Foundation. That being said, yeah, honestly, I don't have a strong opinion on this.
You never. Okay, I'm good with Matt's proposition. Yeah.
If you do think that it should be cnab.io, if you have a strong opinion on this, yeah, feel free to comment. And I think we're at the stage where if we have opinions on it, now should be probably the time.
I don't have any opinion. I'm just raising the question here.
Yeah. That's fair, and it's something that we are going to add in the CNAB registry spec anyway, right? So it's good that the discussion has been brought up. Yep. Next on the agenda is we decided to add, well, we had to add code owners for all of our projects, and we moved Signy a couple of weeks ago and it didn't have any code owners. So I went ahead and added to Shashank and myself, given that we're the only two people who contributed to the project yet. I think Jacob also has one PR, but that it's one PR with a minor thing. We can definitely look into adding more owners in the future, but if anyone, I mean, Sylvain, has any objections to these two code owners, I think we can go ahead and
Radu, we forgot Ralph.
I don't, other than complaining in the issue queue, I don't think he has a contribution yet.
Cool. I guess there's no objections.
No objection.
Okay. And the everlasting issue, I just have a small update on this. The issue dates from last year, and it's a very well-raised point, which is we should clarify what contentDigest means when we have contentDigest in bundle JSON. Just for context, in case someone else is watching this discussion later, in the context of container images, you have two ways of identifying it. You have an image ID, which is the hash of the uncompressed layers. And then you have an image digest, which is the representation that happens after you push an image right now in container images, which is the hash manifest of the image, right? Is that accurate, Sylvain?
I guess yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I'll take that. So the problem is that the description of bundle JSON in the cnab-spec does not clearly mandate one or the other. And then the other issue is that with the current tooling implementation that we have in Duffel and Porter, and I think Docker app, but I might be wrong. In any case, with the current tooling that we have, we only get the image digest just after we push, right? Because we rely on registries to generate that. I raised this discussion again with Justin Cormack earlier this week, and he mentioned that he's fairly sure that container detooling right now is able to reliably generate the image digest locally, and that we should use that.
That would be great.
Yeah, I raised the question that whether tooling authors can reliably use that across registries. And I honestly didn't get a straight answer to that, but at least that is something that we should investigate. That being said, there isn't much we can change in the spec right now.
No, but that's something we can try with cnab-to-oci. Like,
that is something we can definitely try with cnab-to-oci, and if that works well, at least across the registries that supports OCI, they support CNAB right now, we should definitely look into it, because that would spare us a bunch of troubles. First, when we build the bundle, when you first build the bundle locally, and reference an image by tag, we don't really have a way of getting that. That's one. And then if we just built an image, we don't have any reference to that image digest. So if we could reliably calculate the digest locally before pushing, we can prevent cases where cnab-to-oci does the fix up, and any digest is different to whatever it used to be, even if whatever it used to be is nothing, right? Which means it mutates the bundle, which means it invalidates signatures. So it is something we should look into. That being said, I don't have a quick pointer to which part of the container detooling we should look into. It might make sense to ping Jeremy, who I think was the last person to have worked on this, but I'm not sure whether he has any. I think the last time he worked on it, he was trying to use our current tooling, not containerd. So, and there's a new item on the agenda. Do we have anything else to add on this? I'm unclear. At least I'm sure this is not an easy fix we can tackle in a couple of days. So we should probably bring it up at the general meeting next week again, because this also affects general tooling and core spec.
I don't have any comments here.
Okay. Tushang, do you want to talk about key management in Signy?
Yeah, I just wanted to update some. I finally got some time between meetings to work on key management in Signy. So thanks to your PR, especially on, so I've managed to push all the keys that we can safely push to Notary. I pushed it to Notary. I'm also reusing keys across bundles. We don't want to make it really doesn't buy you extra security. It just gives you more headache, provided you keep that key safely. And I'm also working on delegations, which will be useful, especially for Intodo.
Yeah, this is the biggest concern that I have, and let me stop sharing. Yeah, there's the biggest concern I currently have with the security spec. We should investigate in the near future whether we can achieve the delegations we need for the Intodo root layout key, either with the current version of the Intodo server and libraries, or maybe with a fork of the client. I think a fork of the Intodo client libraries would be the most custom we can get. But I think this is something that, at least for me, it's generating a bit of anxiety when it comes to us being comfortable calling for a vote on the security spec.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, it depends on what sort of security guarantees you want, right? But you're right. In general, if you want meaningful security guarantees from Intodo, the root layout and the pub keys for the root layout need to be signed with offline keys. And the only way to safely do it right now is to use delegations, because you don't want machines to sign for both. I need to think about this a bit more. I mean, this has been going on for a while.
Just to be clear, this is something that is possible with TUF. And I think it's something that Tushang has been doing for a while with the TUF reference implementations.
Yeah, with the Python TUF implementation, as opposed to Notary, which is the Docker, TUF.
Yeah, so there's another route we can choose to go, which is continue to work on PySigny for precisely this, and have this as the reference implementation for this part of the spec. It's not a pretty solution, but it shows how to implement that part of the spec, and we can mark it as pending changes in whatever Notary
Oh,
we
I
need.
see. I see. If you wanted to
I
get,
wouldn't be
yeah,
extremely comfortable saying that just because we wouldn't have one solution that would be production ready for
yeah,
this particular part.
right.
But yeah, we should at least know where we're standing before the next security meeting. I would very much like to know whether we need to fork
Okay, let me
something
do
or it's
that.
just not possible with.
Yeah.
It might be a server limitation rather than a client library limitation.
Another option is to refer to. Okay, sorry, I'm just writing this down before I forget.
Yeah. To Signy, which by the way, we should probably, first of all, is not implemented right now, is not implemented in any meaningful way. And we should also move to cnab-to-oci now that we learned the process of how to move stuff to cnab-to-oci.
Yeah, you're right. My only concern with that was, as a reference implementation, I think there's nothing technically blocking, right? It'll work beautifully. My only concern is that I'm not sure whether people are happy supporting Python and Go in practice, so that's a little bit.
It's not a usable solution. That's my concern, right?
Yeah.
We are only saying that we haven't been able to implement this in Notary, so this is how we do it in the tough reference implementation. It's not a solution, it's a massive workaround to us continuing the spec work.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. I also need to see whether there's a way we can shoehorn this into Notary V1 somehow. The way, like, for example, I'm sort of abusing Notary V1 to reuse targets keys, which is not great, but it works. So I need to see whether there's a similar workaround. Okay.
So yeah, the main thing is if you can reference another key that has been delegated and used as the root layout. If you're using delegations right now, if you're saying that you're able to use delegations, maybe we can do it in the same way. But in either case, we should know very clearly where we stand on this issue.
Yep, sounds good. I will put this high in my action item.
And I think this together with 304, which I've been putting off for an awful lot of time, are the only two things blocking us from maybe even calling a vote on the security spec. Because we also have a reference implementation and we have people at least attempting to use it. I would very much like to revisit calling a vote maybe in a month's time if we are clear enough on the delegation discussion.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'll also have to think about whether there's a clever workaround that, you know, maybe doesn't need to use delegations. I don't know, but I need to think about this, which I've been putting off for a while now. Cool. That's it from me.
And that was everything I had on the agenda, at least for now. Is there anything we want to discuss, Sylvain?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Cool.
Well, thanks everyone.
Yeah.
Let's chat on Slack about what sections you want to add, or if you have significant feedback for Chris's document. But yeah, thanks a lot. This has been a great discussion.
Likewise. See you guys. Ciao.
Thank
See
you.
you. Thanks.